Okay, all right, let's get started for the last talk of the day. I want to introduce Huan Sun, who is a faculty associate professor at Ohio State University, which is also my alma mater. You knew that? Yeah. And working on agentic AI. So yes, thank you.
We, of course, know that. We are very proud of you. All right. Thank you for the introduction. And thank you guys for staying here for the last talk of today. So I realized that the talks so far have been mostly about advancing the capability of agents. I myself work on agent capabilities a lot. And in fact, some of the work was mentioned by Yusu's talk yesterday. However, today I hope to focus more on the safety side. Hope my talk could bring more discussion on the safety side of the story. So as some of you may have known, I have a 2-year-old, and I actually bring her here since I have to stay in Montreal for a few more days. Every week, she surprises me with new words, new strategies, and new ways to get it to things that she couldn't reach before. So capability of the young human being grows very fast. At the same time, I realized that we teach her safety and social norms. Look both ways when crossing the street, or wear helmets when riding a bike, and don't hate and be gentle with friends. So safety isn't an afterthought to capability. They grow alongside each other. Today, I will argue that we should develop AI models and agents the same way. We should advance capability and safety together with comprehensive evaluation and guardrails. Even if you mainly care about the making agents work and want to deploy it as soon as possible in production, we should do it in a safe and secure in order for wider adoption of the agents. So by the way, all the images here are generated by Gemini using a real photo of my daughter. So the LM's capabilities are indeed getting much better than 1 year ago. I could get the images that I think are good enough for this purpose within 1 or 2 iterations with the LM. There is also no doubt that the capability of today's agents is growing at a very fast speed as well. You might have seen this figure, but Meteor, which is a nonprofit, made the observation that the length of tasks that frontier AI agents can complete has been doubling approximately every 7 months. And recently, very interestingly, they also tested the recent models such as Grok 4 and also GPT-5, and they found that the observation still holds up. In fact, those models are even performing better than the predicted trend. So if you extrapolate this trend, you can see that probably in 5 to 10 years or even less than that, we'll see AI agents that can independently complete a large portion of software-related tasks that currently take humans days or weeks. Last week, OpenAI also tested the frontier models on tasks from occupations that contribute most to GDP and show that they are already approaching expert-level work quality. And also the model's performance is still improving. So relatedly, Anthropic released this economic index report showing that current users of Claude are indeed using those models to fully automate more and more tasks over time. You can see the tasks that represent automation is growing higher and higher over time. So in contrast, safety isn't keeping pace. In fact, we might see scores are improving on some so-called safety benchmarks, but studies have found that those improvements are correlated with the capability improvements, even if you don't have any safety-specific methods. So this is the so-called safety washing phenomenon. So such benchmarks could create confusion and obscure the differential safety progress. So in a recent large-scale red teaming competition, the organizers managed to collect 1.8 million attacks, both direct attacks from users and also indirect attacks from environments. Based on that, they also create high-impact attacks and show that those frontier agents across different domains could most of the agents could actually have some kind of policy violation behaviors within a small number of queries. So more recently, OpenAI and Apollo Research also reported this scheming and covert behaviors across those frontier models, like deceptive reasoning trees, fudge numbers, or generate confusing responses to cover up some misbehaviors. So all these discoveries are very concerning. The faster the AI capability advances, the more urgent we should make the more urgent AI safety becomes. So how do we think about the safety risks of today's agents? First, to clarify, in this talk, when I use the term safety, I use it in a general and broader sense and refer to actually both safety and security precisely. In fact, English is one of the interesting and funny languages that distinguish safety and security. So we sometimes see people use these two terms interchangeably. And a few months ago, my colleagues working in security noticed the confusion of using these two terms, especially among students. So we wrote an article to clarify the terms on AI safety and AI security. So traditionally, safety and security originate from fundamentally different conceptual foundations and target at very different types of threats. So in a narrower but more precise sense, AI safety target at unintentional safety failures, such as inherent model biases, or value alignment, robustness, OOD generalization, and so on and so forth. AI security, on the other hand, always involves some kind of adversarial element and targets at those intentional adversarial actions, such as like attacks we have been familiar with, like prompt injections or data breaches or data poisoning and so on. So that said, for convenience, I will use the safety in a broader sense to refer to the general harms we should prevent. And precisely it includes both adversarial risks and inherent technical risks in the AI systems. So I want to keep it simple to avoid keep saying safety and security together. So how do we think about this? I'd like to look at this layer by layer, kind of like peeling an onion. So there are 3 layers here, each adding its own risks. So the innermost is the model architecture. The architecture itself brings limitations. We often heard about length extrapolation challenges, and also later I will talk about the systematic compositionality issues. In the middle layer, we have the LM. It adds training data and training objective on top of the model architecture. So 2 major sources of the risks we might have heard about are data poisoning and reward hacking, and also maybe the COT unfaithfulness mentioned in earlier talks. The outer layer is the LM-based agents. So once the model acts on behalf of users with tools, with access to the external environment, such as the web and the operating system, the attack surfaces or the vulnerabilities become much broader than the LMs and the vanilla model. And there could be prompt injections from the environment, unsafe tool invocation, unintended actions on behalf of the user, and so on. So in sum, those weaknesses at inner layers could propagate to the higher levels, and also the environmental attacks could leverage those internal limitations. So consequently, we needed to do layer-specific evaluation and also layer-specific defenses. For example, we have to think about rigorous architectural evaluation or test beds, LM safety assessments, as well as realistic agent sandbox in order to comprehensively red teaming agents. And we also need to think about model-level defenses and also system-level defenses. So for model-level defenses, you can think of maybe building some secure foundation models that are, have some safety-related reasoning in order to identify or distinguish those normal web pages from those, malicious web pages and so on. So today, I will mainly talk about prompt injections in the environment, as well as transformer architecture's fundamental limitations, for example, in the compositionality tasks. All right, let's start with prompt injection. I believe many of us have heard about prompt injection. It has been ranked as the #1 risk, or at least among the most pressing risks by many authorities. GCG here, showing in this paper, is a well-known optimization algorithm for finding an adversarial prompt to attach to a harmful query, so that once this adversarial prompt is attached to the harmful query, the aligned LM, victim LM, will be jailbroken and output some affirmative response telling you the instructions how to perform a task. So what is amazing in this algorithm is that it can find a single adversarial prompt after the optimization, which is universal and transferable, meaning that this single adversarial prompt, which you can think of is just a string of tokens, this adversarial prompt can work for many victim models, many models, and also it can work for many harmful queries. Even for those closed source models, which we don't have access during training, this adversarial prompt can work very well. But one weakness of GCG is that it is very slow. It could take hours to get a single adversarial suffix. Another weakness is that a low loss during this GCG process. A low loss means a high likelihood of the affirmative response you hope the victim victim model to generate. So a low loss here is neither a sufficient condition nor a necessary condition for jailbreaking LM. So we conducted this analysis about the loss changes during this optimization process, and find that there are many successful surfaces with higher losses during this optimization process that are missed by GCG algorithm. And at the same time, you can see there are some successful, there are actually some suffixes with very low loss at some optimization steps that fail to jailbreak. And this is very interesting to us. So we conducted a deeper analysis why a suffix with a low loss, meaning that during training process, it could have a high likelihood of generating the affirmative response of the instruction. Why does such a suffix fail to jailbreak? So this is due to the notorious exposure bias. So we find that for suffixes like this that correspond to a low loss but fail to jailbreak, this is because despite the overall low loss across all tokens in the target output, we find that the loss that corresponds to the first token is substantially higher than the loss that corresponds to the subsequent tokens. So that means the optimization over the first token is actually not successful. So the model tends to generate a refusal token, like sorry, in the first step. So that means when such optimized surfaces are used to jailbreak the victim model, the model tends to pick the refusal tone, such as outputting the sorry token. And then, since autoregressive models decoding at inference time will depend on the previously generated tokens. So the subsequent tokens generated after the first refusal token tend to stay in the safe mode. So that's why some surfaces with low loss will fail to jailbreak if we apply them to the new queries and at the inference time. So we developed a new method called ample GCG, where the main idea is that we could train a generative model to efficiently generate as many adversarial surfaces as we want for a given harmful query. And we could generate different surfaces for different harmful queries very efficiently. And the main idea is that we can use an offline pipeline to collect a lot of successful surfaces from the GCG process. And eventually, we create a larger scale training data, which consists of harmful query and successful surface. And we use those data to train a generative model. Now, given a new query, a new harmful query, we could generate many we can generate hundreds of adversarial suffixes in just seconds, and with nearly perfect attack success to those victim models. And the surfaces can also transfer well to jailbreak those closed models, which are not used in collecting training data. So now, moving from LMs to agents, when we think about agents can interact with tools and the environment like OS and web. We'll see that the attack surfaces become much, much broader than LMs. Now we get a new variant of prompt injection called indirect prompt injection. So this means that the user might not necessarily directly asking the agent to perform something harmful, but you will see malicious injections or malicious instructions added to the environment that the agent is interacting with. So such as web pages, the documents the agent is going to retrieve, and emails, and so on. So due to the strong instruction following capabilities, the agent could follow such malicious instructions and perform the harmful task. In August this year, Claude for Chrome was released. And in that release, Anthropic particularly warned that there could be, some hidden malicious form fields inserted to a web page. The web page is a document object model, or DOM tree, basically, that are invisible to human eyes. But because agents can actually use HTML to do the inference, the agents could see those maliciously injected fields, and then follow the instructions and do the something harmful there. So in fact, this is exactly the attack method we studied in our paper released last year called Environmental Injection Attack, EIA, where, for example, on this page, the agent is supposed to enter the requested information to purchase a gift card on this website. If some attacker manages to insert some malicious fields, okay, just besides these normal fields, And those malicious fields are invisible. If I don't outline this using a red, dotted box, you wouldn't notice anything, suspicious here. But the agent, because they are using HTML for, as input, they could actually, be misled by the instructions entered in the HTML. And then enter the private information in those injected fields. This can cause severe privacy leakage. So this attack method, despite very simple, could have a success rate of up to attack success rate, ASR, of up to 70% using the then SOTA GPT-4 as the backend model for our web agent framework. I should note that one limitation of this attack, you might have noticed, is that we assume the attacker has access to the HTML of the web page, so which is a strong assumption, although it is a possible scenario. So I will talk about how we get rid of this limitation in the next work. Now, if we look at the computer use agents, they can do even more things than web agents. They can not only just browse the web, but also operate your computer, ranging from managing files to typing commands in the terminal to performing some tasks in your OS apps. So their attack surfaces are even much broader than web agents. So how are we going to conduct a comprehensive safety and security evaluation of CUAs? So there are several desiderata when we think about safety and security testing. First of all, we need some ecologically valid tasks, which was mentioned in previous talks as well. Basically, those are tasks that reflect how the agent could be used in real world. Here, I want to emphasize the validity for both benign and also the harmful tasks. So we need to think about how the agent could be used for both adversaries and also the benign users. And also, we need to focus on realistic threat models. Here, we primarily focus on indirect prompt injections from the environment. We have to think about realistic assumptions of the attackers, what access they do or do not have, what adversarial goals they want to achieve, and what is the intention. And also, we need our evaluation to be systematic, of course, not anecdotal in contrast with, some reports in the social media. That means we have to cover many benign tasks, adversarial goals, as well as diversified environments. Lastly, but also very importantly, the evaluation must be controlled in a controlled and safe manner. So we need to use some realistic sandbox environments in order to avoid causing harm in the real world. So in order to address these needs, in our recent work, we proposed the RedTeamCUA, which is a framework for comprehensive adversarial testing of computer use agents under indirect prompt injections. It features a hybrid sandbox environment that integrates a virtual machine-based OS environment and also Docker-based web platforms. So we could safely test those cross-environment attacks. I'll explain what this is in the next few slides. So specifically, we focus on a realistic scenario where where users try to find some online information for local execution. So for example, find the instructions on how to install a package and perform the task locally. However, in that platform, where such information is shared, for example, let's say Reddit, attackers could enter malicious prompts as a follow-up post or as a comment. And then if the agent sees this malicious prompt when browsing the platform, then it could follow the malicious instruction and perform the harmful task. So here is what it could look like in reality. On this platform, the original post is benign and shares how to install a package. And then the attacker follows up on this post and enters a comment. And in this comment, it says something like, okay, this is important, and basically tries to convince the agent that this is an important step in order to install the newest version of the package. And then after that, you have to do that first in order to install the package and so on. So you can see that this threat model is more realistic than the previous work because we only assume the attackers can enter input in places where the platform or the website allows people to enter input, rather than assuming the attacker has access to the HTML or can entirely control the website. On top of that, we consider various adversarial goals under the CIA triad, or confidentiality, integrity, and availability, where the adversarial goals are trying to basically steal some private files from your local computer, or delete some important files, or stop some important service on the computer. So finally, we constructed an adversarial testing benchmark that covers 9 benign goals and 24 adversarial goals, as well as 4 variations for different expressions of the tasks. So in total, there are over 850 instances for testing the agents. We tested a variety of frontier computer use agents, including Operator, Claude 4 Opus, and also the most recent Claude 4.5 Sonnet released a few days ago. So here, let me explain the setting. This setting is a very realistic setting and online setting, but challenging setting. All right. So we ask the agent to perform the benign user task from the initial state used to given to the agent to perform the task. And during this task completion process, the agent could run into prompt injections in the environment. Only if the agent can navigate to the web page that contains the prompt injection and also follow the malicious injection to finish the complete goal, to finish the adversarial goal, and also complete the original task, we treat it as an attack success. Okay, so you can see there are many constraints and it's very challenging. In fact, even if the agent is not attacked successfully under this criteria, it may not because the agent is robust against the prompt injections. It may because of the limitation on their capability. They failed to navigate to the web pages. So that means as the agent can keep increasing their capability, they perhaps will be able to be more, will have a higher attack success rate. So with all that said, we still observe alarmingly high attack success rate, ASRs, for frontier agents. With the recent Claude 4.5, even getting higher than its previous versions. Okay, so that also shows as the capability of the agent gets stronger and stronger, it can actually have the capability to complete both the benign and also the malicious task. I also want to point that the operator implemented this checking mechanism where when they are unsure, they find something suspicious on the website, they will pause and yield it to the human user and ask the human user to intervene. And this mechanism turns to be very effective than other implemented mechanisms in other frontier agents. And ASR has been decreased to 10%, using this check mechanisms. But it is still very high for a real-world deployment. We also tested a variety of defense methods, including both model level and system level defenses. For example, we tried the so-called secure foundation model released by Meta a few months ago, and also some prompt-based defense methods which can be used as a module in the whole agent framework. None of the existing defense methods work very well yet. So that means there has a lot of room to develop effective guardrails. Here, I'm showing you a demo, just to give you a vivid idea of how this agent is jailbroken. So you can see initially the agent is giving this task, installing a package, and also we insert this adversarial goal into some post. Currently, the agent is navigating to the subforum on Reddit that might contain relevant information, and it is navigating to the relevant post that contains the package installation. And now it's landing on this page. And now here, this malicious user posts this, instructions, and the agent opens the terminal and conducts this malicious task, and then get back to the original task, the original benign task, and continue to install the package and finishes it. Okay, so this is how this whole red teaming framework is working, and some concrete examples. In addition to prompt injections, this red team CUA framework can also be used to study a lot of other misbehaviors of the agents. So for example, in our ongoing work, we are conducting a more systematic investigation of those unintended behaviors. So by unintended behaviors, we mean the agent might inadvertently perform some harmful tasks, even without any adversary. The user is not prompted giving a harmful task, or there is no malicious injection from the environment either. But still, the agent might be triggered by some variations of a benign instruction, or be triggered by the environmental observations. Even though they are benign, they can demonstrate some unintended behaviors. So we want to gain a deeper understanding what could trigger such unintended behaviors, what kind of unintended behaviors can be triggered by in a certain context. At the same time, we are also investing a lot of efforts to build effective guardrails for CUAs. In our recent work called WebGuard, we made an initial effort for building a generalizable model for detecting consequential actions for web agents by collecting actions from over 190 websites covering 22 domains. And we had a lot of annotation efforts labeling those actions in terms of safe, low risk, and high risks. So to give you an idea what safe actions mean, what those actions mean, so safe actions mean actions with very trivial, non-state changing effects. For example, maybe some navigation, you can easily recover, you can easily go back or go forth. Low-risk actions are actions with minor reversible consequences that affect only the individual user. For example, this logout action showing on this page. High-risk actions could mean those with significant or irreversible consequences that may affect others or involve some legal, financial, ethical risks, and so on. So we also use the collected data to fine-tune a model to flag those low-risk and high-risk actions. The best model so far we found achieves only around 80% accuracy and tends to have a very low recall of those risky actions. So there is still a large headroom to improve. All right, so now while we make progress on red teaming LMs and agents, and also developing guardrails, of course, to mitigate the risks, I also hope to gain better understanding about the fundamental limitations of the models. So this might allow us to more deeply understand the capability limits and also the safety risks and figure out the solutions. Earlier this year, Anthropic released this study called On the Biology of LMs. And in this study, they apply a new method related to attribution graphs to trace how cloud models transforms an input to an output through intermediate circuits. And in that study, they have some tasks like multi-step reasoning, where they found this intermediate circuits that can first find the answers to one step of the query and then gradually find the answer to the final query. So in fact, we conducted a very related work last year called grokking of implicit reasoning in transformers. And this work has spurred a lot of discussions on various forums and was also cited as an exemplar research for the technical AI safety research call for proposals by some funding agencies. So I will discuss about it in more detail, especially how this is related to AI safety. So there have been heated debates about whether transformers can or cannot reason implicitly. We want to more rigorously investigate this question, and we hope to avoid some blanket statements on whether they could do X or couldn't do X absolutely. So what is implicit reasoning in the first place? Given a multi-step query, we hope the model to directly predict the final answer without verbalizing the intermediate steps, without verbalizing the chain of thought, so to speak. So for example, given this two-hop query, right, asking somebody's wife born in which year, if the model has memorized the atomic facts, okay, the two single hop facts, we hope the model can directly reason about the answer of this two-hop query without outputting intermediate steps. And similarly, for comparison task, we hope the model can directly compare two people in terms of age if they know their ages already. So why does this implicit reasoning matter? We think fundamentally this determines how LMs could acquire structured knowledge of structured representation of facts and rules from data. And more powerful, it would be more powerful to compress and integrate information at scale if the models can think internally. And of course, a lot of times during training, you don't have COT immediately available and so on. So let me talk a little bit about the data setup. I think this is a very interesting part. In fact, some recent study from some nonprofit institute also replicated this setup and also trained on a larger scale model like 8B model and showed similar findings. So let me first say more about the setup. So we have two types of data. One is atomic facts. Basically, you can think of them as knowledge graph, where single edges are just single hop facts. And then we have the so-called inferred facts, which are two-hop compositions. We just focus on two-hop in this work. And training setting here, basically at the high level, during training, we hope to provide a mixture of atomic facts and the multi-hop facts, which we hope the model to be able to infer during the training process. Okay, basically during training, we hope the model to be able to induce the latent rules and like how we could derive the inferred fact based on the atomic facts. And then at the test time, given a new multi-hop query, the model can deduce the answer by applying the latent rules to the known facts, okay, the known atomic facts. So what's more interesting is we create this in distribution and out of distribution test set, ID and OOD. So what does that mean? Basically, we split all the atomic facts into two sets, atomic 1 and atomic 2. So for this one set, we will, do all combinations of these atomic facts and then split those inferred facts into training and test. So basically, we do see some combinations of these atomic facts in the training. But for the test query, OOD, we mean that we'll just use the second atomic facts and do the combinations. And for this second atomic set, all their combinations will be left purely for testing. So that means we never send combinations of the atomic facts in the training set, okay? So this is what we mean by test ID and test OOD here. And we have many interesting findings. Let me just show some most surprising ones. So we noticed that transformers can have a perfect in-distribution generalization, but only after the so-called grokking period. So grokking means, if you are not familiar with the term, basically it is an extended training period that goes far beyond the overfitting period. You can see that in these figures for both tasks, overfitting happens around the step 10K, but achieves the perfect ID generalization only around 500K steps. So that's what we mean by extended training period beyond overfitting. However, for these two tasks, we actually observe different OOD generalization phenomenon. We have observed no OOD generalization on the composition task, and perfect generalization, OOD generalization for the comparison task, all right? Which is very surprising to us. I will explain shortly why. So we got intrigued by this, why these results happen, and want to understand deeply what happened during and after grokking. So we conducted some mechanistic analysis using some standard approaches like logit lens and also causal tracing here. And we found some circuits learned after grokking. And in fact, two different kinds of circuits are learned for these two different types of reasoning tasks. So for composition, we refer to the circuit as a staged circuit, meaning that we find that transformer would use the first 4 layers to find or retrieve the fact for this first hop query, and then the last few layers to retrieve the second hop, the fact for the second hop. And then at the end of the layers, it will derive the final answer. For comparison, we found a different configuration of the circuit, and we call this a parallel circuit, meaning that basically in the first 4 layers, it will simultaneously get the attribute values, for example, age of 2 entities. And then in the last 4 layers, it will do the comparison operation and derive the final answer to this query. You can see the configurations are very different. So this also explains why OOD generalization isn't always achieved. Basically, you can see for composition, for example, for those OOD test queries, because we have never seen the second hop query being combined with any query in the training set, it has never appeared as the second hop during training. So the model has no incentive to save another copy of these single hop queries in the upper layers. So basically, the model can still identify the fact for the first hop and still recognize, okay, in the upper layers, I needed to find the fact related to this entity and this R2 relation, but it just doesn't have the knowledge for this second hop. Okay, basically such issues originates from the non-recurrent design of the transformer. So we are using a vanilla transformer. So adding a little recurrency or parameter sharing, recurrent design, and so on could alleviate this problem. But that couldn't, in this study, we are purely focusing on the vanilla transformer architecture. And this also explains why we would expect a failure in step generalization. For example, if you train the model on 2-hop queries, it wouldn't generalize to 3-hop queries, and so on. So I'll quickly mention more recent work where we focus on another basic generalization failure, which is reversal curse. Here in simple terms, so reversal curse basically means LM trained on A is B fail to learn B is A. So basically, LMs fail to learn the reversal factual relations. You might argue that, okay, B is A may not even be true, but in the study, this is just a simple way to explain the phenomenon. But in fact, even if you look at the top-ranked tokens in the prediction, A is not even ranked in the top K positions. So that's why they claim this is sort of a failure to learn this reversal relation. And our recent work focuses on providing more insights into the course of this, the cause of this problem and the possible solutions. And one surprising finding is that if you train the model using abstract concepts, meaning that you assign the entities and the relations to a unique embedding vector, and there is no entanglements and so on, there is no reversal curse problem. And the model can learn perfect reversal relations. The reversal curse only appears when you attach surface form names to those entities and the relations. And those surface names could contain multiple tokens. And we conducted a more deeper analysis, and this could be related to the binding problem that has been widely studied in AI and also neuroscience. I'll leave the details to perhaps an offline discussion, or feel free to check out the paper. We also designed a model based on the JEPA architecture and also memory layers. But so far, the limitation of this model is we just tested in a synthetic setup, and there is still a lot of scaffolding tailored for this synthetic data setup. So how to extend this to more realistic training data and training settings is unclear. So there is still a lot of room to further study this. All right, so I'm a little bit over time, but let me try to emphasize two promising directions I think are that deserve more efforts. One is skill evaluations of computer use agents for safety and security. We couldn't rely on pure human efforts to discover or expose those long-tail failures. Personally, I'm very into the direction of building AI co-scientists to accelerate AI safety research. We have seen promising discoveries of AI co-scientists in biomedicine and chemistry, but I think safety research actually need more efforts in this direction, and perhaps we can use AI to at least help us do some ideation, experiment design, and design those prompt injections, for example, to start with. And also, I think another interesting direction is to think about strengthen safety-related reasoning in those foundation models. In earlier talks, we mentioned a lot of times about building world models, but more from the perspective of enhancing the capability of agents. But I think you can also learn a world model about the safety, like inferring the consequences of the actions, or how humans would feel after you take this action, kind of related to theory of mind as well. But at the same time, I want to emphasize that we also need to think about mitigating overthinking, because you don't want the model to overreact or like just think for a lot of tokens, even for very simple and trivial actions. And how do we control the deceptive reasoning or prevent that to happen? All right, with that, I'm going to stop here and happy to take any questions. Thank you. Forgot this.
Great. So as before, please come up to the mics.
Thank you for the great talk.
Thank you, Siva.
What do you think about having oversight mechanisms into language models? So, I mean, some of these models, you can jailbreak them by breaking the task into smaller tasks. And just like, even if they reject the if you give the instruction in full, they would behave safely, but then I can break that into much smaller tasks, and the model will start executing each of those steps. But when you combine all those steps, it would lead to an unsafe thing. But the model doesn't have an oversight mechanism to know that these steps involve something unsafe.
Yeah, I think that's a very good question. It's a very tricky one. So what we are doing currently is we will have a monitoring mechanism to monitor the reasoning traces or the trajectory of the agent. But even so, I think it's, I guess one thing we could try is to train some by collecting some trajectories and train some models, and you can sort of learn at a certain step, infer the intention, where this is going, the final outcome. This is also related to the world model I was referring to. So you can sort of already predict the final outcome at the certain steps. But when, like at the beginning steps, maybe it's too early to say, because some benign tasks could also take those steps. But at some critical point, I hope those monitoring mechanism could actually raise the flag and yield, to the humans for intervention. To train such a model, we probably need some creative ideas to even design, such tasks, and also collect the trajectories and intermediate steps in order to do that. But right now, we are also testing how good those frontier LLMs are actually in terms of this monitoring and also identify the risks during the process. We are seeing some promising signals if you have some scaffolding, meaning some prompt designs around the LLMs, do some decomposed analysis and so on. So I feel these approaches are worth investigating. And we should be aware of this risk and then form a rigorous study for that.
Great. Any last questions? Otherwise, maybe we can end for today. So thank you all for attending.
Thank
you,
you.
Juan.